So something that's so simple and so basic is just lifting a box. Just knowing I know how to lift a box from the floor with the right muscles, that I'm not going to injure myself, or even an overhead box, taking it down from a shelf. It's the brain connection to my muscles and my brain telling me, you need to do this, this, and this in order to complete this task. Um, that's huge for me because I was kind of all over the place with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Carrying a bag of groceries, that sort of thing too. And then, I think a big one is playing with our grandchildren. When they come over, we've got both my husband and I have the stamina to keep up with them. For me, I'm on the floor, I'm running around, I'm, just enjoying them and not feeling I'm going to injure myself.
Okay.
Another thing is,
All right, hey everybody. It's Dr. Kevin again here with Balance and Better Restoration, and today we have another interview with one of our clients, Pam, and she was gracious enough to sit down with us today just to tell us more about her journey. And Pam is someone that we've had the pleasure of working with now for a couple of years. And the reason why we want to talk to Pam specifically is because I feel that there are a lot of other people out there who might be in a similar situation to where Pam was a couple of years ago, in terms of things like chronic back pain or just a lot of little nagging injuries. But fast forward to a couple years later, she's really just blown us away in terms of all the things that she's able to do now, in terms of building strength, even lifting weights, and just being in really tip-top shape, despite the fact that she just turned how old now?
70.
70. So again, we just want to talk to Pam because we just want people to know what is possible. If you're in pain or just are looking for ways to get more active again, just to let people know that there are indeed options out there for you. We just wanted to share with you all, just not just in terms of what we did for her, but also so you have an idea of just the types of things that it does take. There's a lot of things out there in terms of quick fixes, and the things that we learned about Pam is that it just takes time. It takes being methodical, but when you take that approach, really amazing things can happen to your body. So I just wanted to kind of go in depth to talk to Pam about what we've been able to accomplish for the past couple of years. So thanks again.
You're welcome.
So the first question, just to introduce yourself to everybody, if you could just tell us a bit more about yourself, who you are, what you do, and just kind of what life is like nowadays.
Okay. So my name is Pam, and I am retired, married, and like to be active with my husband, traveling, gardening, walking, doing all the things. And then we also have grandchildren that we see frequently, and we like to stay very active with them and keep up with them. And yeah, just in general, just enjoy life.
Okay, yeah, great. And so if you could then rewind back a couple years ago, go as far back as you like, but just tell us about maybe some of the problems that you were having with your body in terms of pain or the types of things that you were concerned about. Just kind of give us a brief history of how things were, back to a couple years back.
Okay. So my lower back has been chronically bothering me over the years, on and off. I've always been able to kind of correct it, but never make the pain go away. Um, and then my shoulder was bothering me tremendously, from probably doing exercises incorrectly and not knowing that. Um, and what worked for me when I was younger was no longer working for me. And I got to a point where my leg was hurting. I think it was sciatica. My back was hurting. My shoulder was hurting. I felt like kind of an overall mess. And I needed to find some relief. The things I was doing before weren't working any longer. So I was at a point where I needed to find a new path to take,
Got it.
and hopefully find the person or the place to help correct these things.
Yeah, sure. And if you could maybe elaborate on maybe some of the things that you used to do that you felt were no longer working. So if you could tell us a bit more about kind of what that was all about.
So I had been attending some exercise classes through the senior center, and um, they were fine, and I was able to keep up with the class and all that, but my pain was not going away. And so I felt that I wasn't either doing the exercise correctly, or I needed to lift heavier weights, or I just didn't know what was happening with that.
Yeah.
And prior to that, when I was working, I did exercise every day on my lunch hour. That, seemed to be okay. But I was also younger. I was in my 50s and early 60s, and um, that seemed to be working at that time.
Yeah, so you're someone who's always kind of been somewhat active, never anything heavy or anything like that, but always kind of, kept up and stayed, as active as you could.
Yeah, yeah. Try to keep moving, and
Yeah.
uh, yeah.
Yeah, and then it just realized at some point that you had these like nagging pains, specifically the shoulder and the back, that just weren't going away no matter how much you tried to exercise. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I felt
Got
as
it.
I'm getting older, this can only get worse,
Sure.
and I wasn't willing to accept that.
Yeah. So what was the again the motivating force for you that kind of caused you to kind of keep looking? Because I know there's a lot of people out there when they have a lot of pain or they're starting to have injuries, it's very easy to kind of throw in the towel, or they start to think that, oh, this is just age, or they start to accept it. Or so what was the kind of motivating force for you to just kind of keep pushing through, or just to keep looking for a solution?
So I kind of crossed off the list all the things I had already done that weren't working any longer. And I thought, well, I'm going to go online, and I'm going to peruse the internet and see what I can come up with. Um, and I stumbled across you, stumbled across Kevin and his website, and I read his website, and I liked what I read. It was a completely different approach to things, and I was ready to make that change and that commitment, and decided that I would, make an appointment and at no charge, and come and see Kevin and see what he had to say.
Great. Yeah, and no, thanks for sharing all that. And is there anything in particular that you felt was different, or like what was it that kind of, is there anything specific that you said, oh, this seems different from the types of things that we've tried? Was there anything in particular, or is it just like the totality of the kind of things that we said and kind of stand for?
Um, yeah, I think, from our initial conversation on the phone, I I liked speaking with you. You listened. You heard what I had to say. You weren't pushy. Yeah, you just kind of explained how you go about treating people. I didn't make my first appointment right away. I kind of sat on it, and then probably felt in more pain and decided, well, what the heck. Um, and then coming in to see you, I think it was at least an hour appointment, and you kind of assessed me and
Yeah.
gave me some ideas about what you thought it might be. And I felt real comfortable and confident that I'd found somebody that could hopefully
Yeah, get you out of the
get
out
me
of the
out of
rut.
that rut.
Yeah. Yeah, so not for everyone, not to get into full details of everything that we did, but as we always tell everybody that bodies are very complex, and pain can come from all sorts of areas. And when we first started working with Pam, even though we had a good grasp on what we think was kind of connecting her shoulder pain and her back pain, it still took us a little bit of time to really figure out what was going on, because again, pain in the bodies can be complex. But what did you feel was, in working with us in the beginning, what did you feel was the turning point, and what did you start feeling that caused you to think, oh, I'm actually feeling better, or my body's feeling a little different compared to the things that you may have tried in the past? Like what did you feel was the difference when we started to actually get going?
I felt your approach, was so methodical and so, um, caring, that you would try something, and I would come back in and say, hey, I feel worse than I did before. And then you'd rethink it, and okay, we're going to try this now. And it took a few appointments before we really figured out where my pain was coming from.
Yeah,
And I, of course, I was willing to
yeah,
stick
endure
it
it. Just
out,
yeah,
endure it, because yeah, I wanted the relief.
yeah.
So, um, that's where I think your practice is so different from other places I've been.
Yeah, and just to let everybody know, even though these sessions that we first worked with were a couple years ago, I'll still never forget. She had a pretty bad hip pain and sciatic pain, and one of the most common things that people will do when they feel the pain in the back of their hip going down their leg is they'll want to massage, they'll want to stretch, they'll want to do things to the area that make it feel good. And even though things usually feel good at the time, it usually causes things to get worse. And that was the mistake that we were making, is because we wanted to do things to give her relief. We wanted her to feel good. It's just that for these types of injuries, sometimes the more you press on the area that hurts, the more you can actually make it worse. And what we figured out was that it was actually, her shoulder and her posture and her upper back, all the things that were kind of away from the site of her pain was actually what was causing her issues. So just to get a little technical, but just to give people an idea of kind of what happened is anyone can kind of fall into this trap and make the mistake of just doing things that feel good right now. But if things just keep getting worse, or if they keep coming back, it's so important for us to be able to take that step back, see the body as a whole, and really focus on fixing the things that need fixing, instead of only doing things that just kind of feel good at the time. So that was what I remember, kind of when the turning point was, when we started to see a noticeable reduction in her symptoms, despite that she was having these things for a couple of years. So if so after we kind of worked with each other for a couple of months, and things had gotten pretty good. For a lot of people, that happens, and once they feel good, they're kind of done with us, and life just kind of goes on. But then after a little while, you came back, and I was just curious as to what was going on inside your mind. After you had gotten some relief and things weren't 100%, but what kind of spurred you to want to come back and kind of look for like a next level of health, or what was going on inside your mind at the time?
So originally I'd come in for both my back and my shoulder, and my sessions were strictly focused on my back because there was a lot of work to be done in that area. And so once that got corrected, I wanted to come back and see you for my shoulder. And we worked on that. And then miraculously, we took care of my shoulder, and the pain literally went away after you had me do exercises and cupping and that sort of thing. And so kind of after those two things were cleared up, I thought, well, I feel so good. I want to continue with Kevin because I feel like he has so much more to offer. And if he is willing to work with me um, on a weekly basis,
Yeah.
then I'm signing up, because whatever he's doing is working for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you could just maybe tell everybody a little more about your shoulder, because I remember the shoulder was in a, yeah, we worked on the back initially, and the shoulder was just this persistent thing. So just tell us a bit more about what was really going on with the shoulder, like where it was, like what were you having like issues with, and just kind of, if you could just kind of go back in time, just tell us more about like what was really going on with the arm at the time.
Yeah, so my left shoulder, I couldn't even like lift my arm. It was more of lifting everything like that.
Yeah.
And I had an MRI done through Kaiser, and it was determined I had a small tear. But Kaiser didn't really help me. They sent me home with a piece of paper telling me do these exercises, and that just didn't work for me. So working with you, I know you did cupping. You had me do all kinds of manipulations on my shoulder. I remember I had a little pain going down my forearm. Yeah, we just kind of worked through all that, and then I honestly, one day it was just gone, and it's never come back.
Yeah, and yeah, we hope that happens for every single person, and we just figured out, for Pam, that there were just a couple things in her arm, despite the fact that she had a small tear, her body wasn't moving correctly, and that a lot of excessive pressure was building up in the shoulder. And how we were able to help her get better was just by focusing on fixing what needed to be fixing, and just not really just fixating on fixing what was hurting, but just kind of working around her body, and just focusing on restoring the way that her body is supposed to work. And that's how we were able to kind of get around her shoulder from a more technical standpoint, and we were able to get the results that we were actually kind of shocked and surprised about how quickly and how permanently the relief has really been. So so after that, Pam has now been part of our Forever Strong program now for over a year. And our Forever Strong program is a comprehensive strength training program that we originally designed for some of our chronic pain patients who did just want to kind of keep the ball rolling, not just in terms of injury prevention, but also in terms of, again, people sometimes just they feel really good about their bodies when they get stronger, and they just want to kind of kind of keep the ball rolling. So if you could just tell us about the past year or so in terms of just kind of being in this program, just kind of what you've learned, what kind of has, what surprised you about this process. Just tell us a bit more about what it's been like the past year or so, just kind of building strength in where you're at now.
Okay. I think one of the most important things that I've learned is proper positioning and how to engage my muscles properly, um, and starting with low weights and then working up from them and not moving to the next level until I'm absolutely ready to do that. Um, I've surprised myself as to how heavy a weight I can lift and lift it properly. Kevin makes sure that you're in proper position. You correct if something's not looking right. It's just that one-on-one where I feel that I'm in the best hands I could be in to be doing these exercises and not re-injuring myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you feel when you exercise? Because one of the things we try to help our people focus on is that a lot of people have these misconceptions about exercise, that it's, you've got to, work till failure, you've got to, push through pain, or no pain no gain. And I want people to realize that is not the best way to exercise. It's actually not a good way to exercise at all. And that there are approaches that are out there that really focus on things such as form and technique, and just being very aware of your body and your surroundings. And once you start to establish that as a foundation, then anyone can start to build strength, as long as you create those conditions and those environments to actually get stronger. But like, how does working out with us how does it how is it different from maybe from the types of things you maybe have done in the past? Like, what are the main differences, would you say?
Um, so in the past, I never had a one-on-one experience that was beneficial. I felt like whatever trainer I was with didn't really thoroughly look at how I was doing things. So with you, I feel so confident that you know all the muscles, you know all the tendons, you know how the body's put together, that you really can see if I am doing something correctly.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different experience than I've ever had in the past.
Yeah. And how would you say your body kind of feels after these workouts? Because again, these are, as you'll see, we're going to show a brief demonstration of the types of things that Pam is doing. But how do you feel, after these workouts, or even during? Like, is there a difference in terms of the feel, in terms of just overall, or if you could speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when I'm actually doing the workouts, I can feel the muscles working. I can feel which muscles are working, which muscles should be working and maybe aren't. And so we're able to identify the weaknesses and build on those weaknesses to work toward a better session.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've never had before with other programs I've done.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why we wanted to emphasize, because again, Pam, coming from a situation where she had a lot of back pain, she had a lot of hip pain, she had a lot of chronic left shoulder pain. There were a lot of weaknesses, there were a lot of imbalances, and there were just a lot of things that had just kind of built up over the years. And that it's so important for people to realize that yes, exercise is very important. You need to exercise, you need to get stronger. But if you have pain, or if things don't feel right, then something's not right, and things do need to be looked at. And with all due respect to people that work out in gyms, or trainers, they have wonderful knowledge in terms of getting people stronger. But when there are things that just are not working properly within your body, you need to have the awareness that those need to be resolved first. Because if you're exercising, you shouldn't be in pain, and your body should feel good when you're exercising. It shouldn't be hurting. And that's a misconception that I feel that people have, is that they think that they need to push through the pain, or they need to keep pushing through because they need to get stronger. But they don't realize that in their attempts to get stronger, they're actually causing more damage in their body. So again, kind of the things that
Yeah.
Pam was talking about that we
Yeah.
want to emphasize is about feeling your muscles. Are you doing it correctly? What is the proper form? And those things take time. And they didn't start off doing all these things in the beginning. It just started off with a lot of just slow, boring,
Mhm.
body awareness things. So yeah, if that yeah, that's kind of what the initial stage of the program was about.
That's a good description, body awareness, because that's huge. I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned from you is feeling my muscles, the brain connection with the muscle.
Yeah. Yeah, and that again, as we said, that is the foundation of what we believe is most important, especially for people who are thinking about fitness or thinking about trying to get stronger. Doesn't matter how old you are, but these are the things that we believe are just the essential things that people need to know about that I feel just isn't people just aren't aware of, and that's what people gets people in trouble in terms of causing pain or doing things that they think are right for their bodies but are actually causing issues. So yeah,
Yes.
thanks for
Yeah.
elaborating on that. So yeah, what would you say surprised you the most about this whole process? I'm sure that you didn't think that a year ago you'd be lifting the amount of weights that you're doing, but just tell us about what has surprised you about your body or your resilience, or just tell us a bit more about yeah, what's surprised you.
Yeah. I think um, the process has been slow, um, but a good slow because every time I've come in, um, I either have learned something new or I did something in the prior appointment and I'm in a little bit of discomfort. And Kevin always addresses that and switches it up. Um, but I have progressed. And that's the part that's been amazing. And that's the part that has motivated me to want to keep coming
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, and that's yeah, that was going to be our next question is, what motivates you, and that's the thing that we really want people to realize. It's not about perfection, it's about learning to make progress. We see a lot of people, once they reach the age of 70, especially those that are health conscious. Again, a lot of people, they know they need to be doing something, and they'll do the exercise classes at the senior center. But we see people, like lifting these like little pink weights, or they're doing these chair exercises, or they're not challenging themselves enough, or they're not challenging themselves nearly to their limit, and it just ends up being, I don't want to say like a waste of time, because I think that it's always good that people are engaging, but I think it just leaves so much more on the table that people could be doing that they don't know that they can be. So
Yeah.
but at the same time, we want to make sure that we don't that we're very cautious and we're very careful, and we don't push people past their thresholds and eventually cause some type of pain or injury. But if we can just, again, we always talk about here, just finding the right threshold in which the body is challenged the most, but in a way where it's still safe, and that's where we can
Mm.
make progress. And progress is what we really want to focus on, and progress is what is the only way that we can get from where you were to where you are now, which we'll see in a minute. Just how strong and how capable you are now, which is all really cool. Um, so I guess the last question would be, what would be your message to someone who might be in a similar situation, or what would be your message to the past version of yourself, in terms of, yeah, what would you say to the person knowing what you know now, compared to where you're at before?
Um, I think um, I think you have to meet yourself where you're at. And so for me, I was ready to meet Kevin and embrace the things that he wants to teach me. Um, I think if you're questioning if you can do things, you probably can, even though you think you might not be able to.
Hmm.
I think you've just done such a wonderful job with your patience, your kindness, your respect. I never feel like I come in here like, oh, he's going to think I'm like real wimpy today. I mean, I never have any of those thoughts in my head. I always think you have my best interest in mind and you're working with me where I'm at. So I would really share with other people that might be thinking along those lines of, oh, I need to try something. I just don't know what I need to try at the age we are. That Kevin's approach is so gentle and methodical, and I just feel anyone that comes to see Kevin will get results. It might not be immediate, or it might be immediate. I mean,
Yeah.
because we don't, we don't know
Yeah.
until you start. So that would be my message to anyone that thinks they want to try an exercise program,
Yeah.
and they're older and
Yeah.
and don't know where to start.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Uh,
Yeah, and I guess one more question after that is yeah, what would you say what do you feel you can do now? Like what has all this exercise and what has all this strength, what has it really done for your life in terms of like what you can do now? And you always tell us these amazing stories of things
uh,
that you can do now compared to before. So if you just kind of give us an idea of what the strength and what all this exercise what it means, like what is actually what has it done for your overall lifestyle?
So, something that's so simple and so basic is just lifting a box. Just knowing I know how to lift a box from the floor with the right muscles, that I'm not going to injure myself, or even an overhead box, taking it down from a shelf. It's the brain connection to my muscles and my brain telling me, you need to do this, this, and this in order to complete this task. Um, that's huge for me because I was kind of all over the place with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Carrying a bag of groceries, that sort of thing too. And then, I think a big one is playing with our grandchildren. When they come over, we've got both my husband and I have the stamina to keep up with them. For me, I'm on the floor, I'm running around, I'm, just enjoying them and not feeling I'm going to injure myself. Another thing is balance, being more aware of my body, where my body is, and yeah, just body
Yeah.
awareness.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, that's great, and that's what we envision. And again, we just want to we're going to get into a little bit of demonstration just so you guys have an idea of the types of things that we're talking about in terms of what she's able to do. But yeah, thanks for sharing all that. Thanks for sharing your story. It's been such a pleasure
hmm,
working with you. We have a lot of fun. It's so fun to be able to see someone make progress and keep kind of pushing our limits. Again, we also want to make sure that we keep things safe. We're not over pushing people. So, but yeah, it's just been so fun to work with you for this amount of time. And we just want to other people to know about Pam's story, because again, I think that there are a lot of people who might be in a similar situation, and not just in terms of working with us, just be able to find, as Pam always says, just be able to find your person, just be able to find people that really get you, that really understand the body, and that a lot of people are out there. People like this are out there, and that there are ways that we can help. So yeah, just don't give up, and
yeah.
it's just amazing to see what a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, but also doing the right things at the right time can really do for people. Again, despite your age or despite your diagnosis. So thanks again, Pam.
You're welcome, Kevin. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, and yeah, we'll see you all soon.